Yeah,
Hey,
hello, Bernhard.
hey,
Back
Carsten.
in the series. What
Back
are
in.
we doing next? We have
Yeah,
two optional steps, but I really like them. So, what
yeah.
do we do with FSLogix?
They are very likely to be done. To be honest, right? So FSLogix, or step number 4, is optional, but probably very likely to do. FSLogix is a solution for the people that want to have profiles, or a profile management solution for their virtual desktops. So think of it. You have a lot of users that are accessing shared desktops, right? The difficulty is, these users work with it. They, create documents in the documents folder. They download stuff. They, paste pictures maybe on their desktops. They put something on their desktop itself, and this is valid data, right? But what you don't want to have is when this user comes back the next day and maybe is using or connected to a different desktop because of pooling, right, and load balancing. They want to have their data, so you need to copy that data to a central location and have a mechanism that makes it possible that that this data is moving, or is mapped to the logon, or is following along the logon session with that user. And FSLogix is doing that. So, but we need to provide a central file share for FSLogix to work. And that's what we did in a different series. So we provided a highly available scale-out file server, which is providing a SMB file share, highly available. And maybe you show that and make a little bit of appetite for the other series, because
Okay.
we don't want to do it in here, but we don't want to say we want to share that content with you, but
Yeah.
it's in a
Yeah,
different series.
we need a central storage for our profiles. And in
Mm-hmm.
FSLogix, in this scenario, we will use user profile disks. There are other possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for user profile disks, these are VHDX files, and there is nothing better than a scale-out file server, and you can do scale-out file server on Storage Spaces Direct. And Storage Spaces Direct is the same technology we use in Azure Stack HCI.
Mm-hmm.
So we provided a 2-node scale out file server, storage spaces type with local disks. And in these 2 nodes, there is a cluster running. Just give you a peek. Here is this 2-node cluster for the cluster manager. And we have one role here. And this is a scale out file server. And the purpose of the scale out file server is to provide high available shares. So if you want to have more information, there's a 2-part mini series. Bernhard, we will have a link in the video description to that. Look at it, but we highly recommend to have a high available storage for your profiles. So how does it look? If we go here, our scale out file server has the name ZOF, scale out file server. You can name it however you want. And you see here, I provided 2 shares. So now I'm joking, I'm not a security guy, but at least we need some security.
Yeah.
Then in these shares, we will find the profiles of multiple users, or the user
Right.
profile disk. So we need some security here that I can't get to your profile, because sometimes there is very important information stored in the profile. If you
Yeah.
save an Excel file or whatever, it's there. So we have to protect that. And how do we
So
do that?
yeah, so the VHDX file with the profiles, which are sitting on that share, are mapped under the user's account, right? The one that is logging on to. So we need to make sure that these permissions are set correct, and what you mentioned with no traversal should be allowed. So I should be allowed to do stuff with my profile, but not with the other one, right?
Not with mine.
Yes. So I think I came across, or in order to make that stuff repeatable, I provided some PowerShell script for doing this, because it's a little bit tricky, especially with the inheritance kind of flags, and the difficulty is also the fact that you don't want to pre-create and preset all the permissions for all of the possible users whichever might connect to the desktops, right? So if a user is connecting for the first time, he should have the rights to create the profile himself, right? And then work with his profile, but not. And that's possible to do with the permissions, but it's a little bit more, more intelligence that needs to go into the setting and playing a little bit with inheritance. So if I would love if you could, select some of the sections that make sense to you, maybe the paragraph wise, and execute it. And while you're doing this, I will talk a little bit over what it's doing. So first thing is easy. We are filling the domain name for that because we are using a users group, and then we are, getting the current account list or the handle for the current share, right? So then in the next step, we are removing all of the permissions and set it in the next line. So the next two lines is remove all what's in there and set it. And then we'll replace it with our wanted permissions, which is basic permissions for domain controllers, not for domain controllers, for domain admins, for the system, and also for the creator owners, right? But the thing is, with the I'm playing a little bit with the object inheritance. So you see some parameters here. I would need to dig into what I really did years ago. So bear with me that this plays a little bit with the object inheritance.
And I used the same commands to play with the access rights. And it's not the easiest PowerShelling that you have to do, because you set everything on the object and then you say, push the object to the right. So we will do this together. So first we remove all the rights, whatever is there, and we set the rights we want. So this is the first part. I will copy it over. And enter. So now we should have a clean slate with the permissions we want to have. There's the second part here, right? What do we do here?
So the next part is for the interesting FSLogix part, right? So which is, we have a group with all the AVD users, which is called AVD users. Okay. So instead of giving the accounts or the users individual access, we are putting them into a group.
And then we do the same, right? We
do the same, but these permissions are really sort of restricted, right? So you could see that you do have some permissions, especially read permissions, right? Append data, execute file. I would say let's run it, and maybe then afterwards we have a look at how these permissions look like if you open up File Explorer and go into the NTFS settings. Right.
So we have set it for File Explorer. I have to go to a system with a GUI. So we set it here. And if I go to properties, let's see if we can see the security. And here we have it. Okay.
If you would hit the edit button, please.
You want the advanced, right?
Yeah, I want the advanced.
This one. Yeah.
Right. And select the the creator owner has subfolders and files only, right? So that's the possibility to create new files and new folders for the individual users. And then the AVD users have, special permissions on this folder only, not for the subfolders, right? And if you go in there and have a look at, see, these are special permissions, and here you see the minimal set, right? So it's relatively stripped down, right? So you can create folders and append data there, but not on the subfolders, right? So that's how we want it, and we'll do the test afterwards, right? So I will play user 2, evil user, and trying to get into your profile and see if that works. If it's done, we did a bad job. If it's not working, then we get it. Okay.
I think it will work. But for that, we of course have to have our profiles already. That's in a later video. Should we?
Right. So this is part one.
Finish here? Or?
Yeah, this is part one of the setting. We've done the NTFS permissions, and the next video is about applying the settings using a group policy. See you there.